The elevator doors slide open on the 42nd floor like a judgment. Out stepped Victor Hale, 68, with a mop handle across his shoulder and a bucket rolling behind him. The midnight crew had thinned to a hush. Only the red eyes of printers and the distant hum of servers kept him company. He wore the same grey coveralls he'd worn for years, frayed at the cuffs, too big in the shoulders, his work badge clipped to a lanyard someone else might have thrown away. The CEO arrived late that night too. Damien Cole, all bright watch and sharper suit, moving through the glass and chrome corridor like he owned the sky, which in a way he did. He had just announced a temporary right-sizing, layoffs by another name, and the markets rewarded him with a modest rise. The headlines were clean, the halls were not. Victor set the bucket down, wrung out the mop with slow hands, and began making long, patient arcs across the marble, like erasing a day's worth of footprints. Damien's reflection wobbled in the wet sheen as he approached, pulling off his cufflinks as if they were battle medals. "You missed a spot," Damien said, pointing with his chin, not his hand. Victor followed the angle. "I'll get it, sir." "Sir," Damien mocked lightly, "you're older than the building. Don't you get tired of pushing water around?" Victor looked at him, not up, just at. His eyes were the gentle brown of well-worn leather. Clean is a language. People feel it when they arrive and when they leave. Damien chuckled. "Spare me the poetry, Hemingway. Try not to scuff the Italian marble with your vintage shoes." He swept past, phone already at his ear. "Yes, carry forward the savings. No, keep the severances lean. Sentiment is a cost center." Victor wrung the mop once more. The water in the bucket had a faint blush to it, like a sky thinking about dawn. He kept mopping. A young junior analyst came out of a conference room carrying a banker's box, the cardboard kind that makes a career look small. She hesitated, cheeks hot with embarrassment. Victor angled the bucket aside. "You okay there, miss?" Her voice snagged. "They said it wasn't personal." "Ah," Victor nodded. "That's how people make personal things easier to say." She almost smiled. "Thanks for holding the door for me." Most people looked away. "I don't know how to do that," Victor said simply. Down the corridor, Damien glanced back. "Hale," he called, "when you're done performing empathy, the executive washroom needs attention." Victor's hands tightened on the handle. He went. "Layoffs do something to a building." The laughter goes thin. Mugs disappear, posters curl in the air conditioning like tired leaves. Victor noticed everything, he always had. On his break, he sat in a corner of the service hall with a thermos of tea and a folded lottery slip tucked into his pocket, its ink smudged soft by his thumb. He'd buy one ticket a week, not because he believed in miracles, but because he liked the ritual of hope. Numbers chosen for birthdays he still remembered, and one he never forgot. He had a small rent-controlled apartment, a succulent named Ruth, and a son he hadn't spoken to in years because pride can sometimes grow taller than love. He sent part of each check to his sister for her medicine. The rest bought rice, shoe polish, and the occasional second-hand novel from the street vendor by the subway. In the weeks that followed, Damien Cole doubled down on his image. Interviews with glossy magazines, charity galas that served cocktails in crystal but had plastic smiles, and speeches full of verbs like accelerate and maximize. He called the old cleaner museum exhibit once and laughed. The executive assistants laughed too, the way people laugh when the air is thin and the boss is watching. Victor kept wiping fingerprints off the glass that touched the clouds. He listened to the building talk, the whir of the HVAC, the cough of elevators, the sudden small sobs from the restroom stalls where the newly unemployed hid from goodbye. One dusk, he found a scrap of paper by the finance desk, a spreadsheet printed with a name column and a number. Severance. He hovered over it, then slid it gently into the shredder. Not because he had to, but because mercy is, sometimes, the only policy we can control. The night the news truck camped outside, Damien came down to the lobby with PR at his elbow. He stood in front of the glass doors and delivered a line he'd polished all afternoon. Our restructuring allows us to stay competitive and protect the jobs that remain. A cameraman's light bleached his features until he looked like a statue of himself. When the camera redirected, Damien caught Victor's eye. "Still here?" "Yes, sir." "Good," he said. "Someone needs to pick up the confetti when the parade is over." "Someone always does," Victor said, but very softly. On Saturday, the lottery numbers came up. Victor watched the ping-pong balls bounce inside their clear drum like fate trapped in a dryer. When the final number landed, he read them again and again, until that small apartment felt too full for air. He closed his eyes, and for a moment he was sitting in a hospital room from years ago, holding his wife's hand as she smiled, tired and luminous. "What would we do if we ever got lucky?" she had once asked. "Make somebody else lucky," he'd said. It felt like a promise. He did not scream. He did not dance. He made tea. Then he opened a notebook and wrote names. A check arrived on a Monday morning for a receptionist named Teresa, who had been cut after 13 years. It came from an anonymous fund calling itself the Quiet Ledger. The memo line read, "Bridge money for rent and braces." She wept into her cardigan and phoned no one, because sometimes joy is a solitary room. By Wednesday, 24 former employees found their mortgages current and their medical bills mysteriously paid. The Quiet Ledger knew things only a loving snoop could know: late fees erased, utility shut-off notices cancelled, daycare balances zeroed out. Local news framed it as angel philanthropy. Twitter, less poetic, called it a savior with a spreadsheet. In a small rented office above a tailor shop, Victor worked with a pro bono accountant who kept saying, "Sir, I assure you we can set aside something for you." And Victor kept answering, "You already did. This tea is very good." He refused to attach a name to the checks. He refused, too, to cast it as revenge. "It's a repair," he said, "like a mop, just with zeros." Damien Cole heard about the Quiet Ledger the way emperors hear thunder. They think the sky is applauding. At first he smiled, decided to co-opt the narrative, and instructed PR to celebrate the generosity of our community. But the stories kept surfacing, specific intimate gifts that made corporate charity look like a photo op. Reporters began to add a footnote. Meanwhile, CEO Damien Cole's compensation package increased by 22% following layoffs. At a shareholder Q&A, a teacher with a small investment stood up and asked, "Do you know who the Quiet Ledger is?" Damien's smile did what smiles do before they break. "We're grateful someone is helping those impacted by restructuring," he said, and the room heard a line reheated instead of spoken. He called a war room meeting. "Find me the donor," he told legal. "We'll partner." "You mean take credit?" the CFO muttered, not quite sotto voce. Damien ignored it. He was certain great acts craved great spotlight. He was wrong. The reveal came oddly. A courier envelope slid under Damien's office door one night. Inside was a list of deposits to laid-off employees, masking donors by unique ID. At the bottom, if you want to understand wealth, ask your cleaner where the money went. Damien frowned, stupefied. He buzzed his assistant. "Bring Hale." Victor arrived with the easy shuffle of a man unafraid of any room. Damien pointed at the letter. "Is this you?" Victor looked at the page the way people look at a waterfall. Beautiful, loud, and too much. "What makes you think I could do something like that?" His voice was calm, without denial. "Because it says, 'Ask the cleaner,'" Damien snapped. "And because whoever did this knows intimate details." Victor's eyes flicked to the corner where a camera blinked red, then back. "People talk to the person they think can't hurt them," he said. "They tell the cleaner things they wouldn't tell a priest." "You?" Damien demanded. "On your paycheck." Victor tilted his head. "I came into a windfall." Damien's laugh was not laughter. "You're telling me you... what? Won the lottery and decided to play Robin Hood with my ex-staff?" Victor's hand settled on the back of a chair, steadying nothing but air. "I don't know Robin Hood. I know a woman who died with a smile because strangers kept her warm in a winter hospital. People did for me when I could not. I am only, what do the executives say, paying it forward." Damien stood, heat rising. "Do you have any idea how this makes me look?" Victor took a long, slow breath, as if considering the kindness of telling the truth gently. "Like a man who forgot that buildings are made of people." For a heartbeat, Damien considered firing him in a blast of righteous fury. But news of the quiet ledger had made the city hum with cautionary romance, and firing the cleaner would turn him into a martyr in an afternoon. He sat down instead, as if gravity had finally gotten through. "Why anonymous?" he asked, smaller now. Victor's smile touched only in the eyes. "Because gifts shouldn't make the giver taller." Damien stared at him across a table suddenly too wide. "I did not see you," he admitted softly. "Not really." Victor shrugged, not unkind. "We see what teaches us to win." The company hosted a town appreciation event a week later, its attempt to harvest some of the goodwill it hadn't planted. Employees, old and current, gathered under rented string lights that made the lobby feel like a borrowed wedding. Damien took the mic and thanked the quiet ledger for its generosity. He used phrases like community and shared future and stumbled only once when he looked up and found Victor near the back, hands folded, listening fully as if to a symphony. Reporters cornered Damien afterward. "Do you know who the quiet ledger is?" they asked. He glanced at Victor and answered with a new kind of honesty. "Yes," he said, "and I hope to be more like them." That night, Damien rode the elevator down with Victor. The doors reflected them both. The CEO with a jaw square from years of grinding, and the cleaner with shoulders rounded by carrying everything gently. The city lights lay below like a field of candles. "I started working at 14, Damien said quietly. "My father taught me that money is armor." Victor nodded. "It can be. Or it can be a bridge." Damien looked at his reflection, thinner than he remembered. "I made cuts. Some were necessary. Some were applause lines to people who don't live here." He swallowed. "I'm sorry." Victor considered, then extended a hand, not to shake, but as if offering balance on a crowded train. "Start small," he said. "Raise severance. Restore health coverage retroactively. Call 3 people you laid off and ask what they need. Then don't post about it." Damien laughed once, a real sound at last. "You're giving me a to-do list." Victor's eyes warmed. "Everyone needs one." Months passed. No more anonymous envelopes appeared because the quiet ledger had already answered the most urgent pleas. Instead, checks were followed by job offers, in part because Damien called competitors and recommended people he'd cut, saying the hardest thing a prideful man can say, "I was wrong to let them go." The story cooled from headline to legend. Victor kept cleaning. He took one indulgence. He bought new shoes that looked exactly like his old ones, only they hugged his feet like a friend's arm. He set money aside for his sister, for the junior analyst with the banker's box, for a scholarship in his wife's name at the community college where she once taught English as a second language. One Sunday morning, he stood outside his son's door, holding a paper bag of pan dulce and a courage he hadn't spent in years. The door opened. A boy with Victor's eyes looked up at him, then back at his father behind him, then at Victor again. "Grandpa?" the boy asked. Victor smiled, and somehow the entire hallway filled with light. We love stories where the ground shifts under the feet that stomped loudest, where the man at the top learns the difference between rich and wealthy, between power and care. The CEO laughed at the old cleaner. The cleaner built a bridge out of invisible hands and let the city cross. Moral: true wealth isn't what you keep. It's what you quietly repair. Like, share and subscribe for more powerful life stories and emotional lessons.